Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Xyzal is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Xyzal keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Xyzal. At night.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. It's Paul O'Neill's birthday. I've missed you all. We didn't talk on Friday because of the Yankee game. And then we didn't talk yesterday because of the Met game. So obviously we have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of things to cover, things that are happening today, things that happened over the weekend. We'll get to all of it, and you know the rules. You get to be the co-host, 1-800-919-3776. Let's start with the Knicks. It wasn't a great weekend for the Knicks, and I'm sure it's been picked apart piece by piece. And it's hard to rip the Knicks because the Knicks are a very good team. The one thing that we have found out over the course of this year is they're not a great team. They're very, very good. I mean, when you have, the fourth best record in the NBA, you're a very, very good team. But the three teams in front of you, Cleveland, Boston, OKC, you've been embarrassed in every single game. Embarrassed in every single game. So the Cleveland game on Friday night, you lost by 37 points. And then the Boston game on Sunday, you lost by 13. And to tell you how bad it's been for the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, who's a straight shooter, comes out and says, you know what, if we play like we played in the third quarter at the beginning of the fourth, we'll be fine. I don't buy anything about that. The NBA is a league of runs. So the final score was the Celtics beat them by 13, but in essence, they beat them by 25. The Knicks went on a run. The Celtics got a little lax. They got a little lackadaisical. They got a little lazy. And the Knicks went on a little bit of a run. And then when the Celtics saw what was happening, I think the Knicks closed it within 4 points. The Celtics said enough of that, like swatting away a fly. There are things that the Celtics do that the Knicks cannot combat. Now, I am under no way, shape, or form ripping the Knicks. It is a work in progress. It's not a perfect team. The Celtics are the defending champions. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a team that has unbelievable depth. They don't play a lot of their players over 30 minutes, just a couple. So Kenny Atkinson is moving people off the bench into the lineup, into the rotation, and everybody is fresh. The Knicks play their guys a lot of minutes, and I am not part of the minutes police. I like the fact that the Knicks play their guys. But the guys they play are somewhat limited. Karl Anthony Towns is not a great defender, and he does not work well against a team like the Boston Celtics with their pick and rolls and their quickness and their guys that can guard all five positions. They got guys on the Celtics that play a 2 or a 3 that can guard Karl Anthony Towns. They have length, they have quickness. And then on offense, they run pick and rolls, and the Knicks don't defend it well. And we've seen throughout the year that the Knicks are not great at defending the perimeter. They're just not. So do I think they're going to win a championship this year? No, I do not. That doesn't mean it's a failed season, but there are some things that you have to ask yourself about. And one of them is Mikal Bridges. To me, he's been a little disappointing. Not a bad player, but again, I guess it's my fault that I'm looking at a guy and go 5 first-round draft picks should maybe move the needle a little bit more. He has not been a difference maker, and I know on the Knicks he's supposed to be the third option, but he has not played that great. I mean, he padded his stats at the end of the Celtic game. He practically did nothing against them. The Knicks are going to have quite the decision ahead of them because he's eligible for a 4-year, $157 million contract. I don't know if I give it to him. He's an Iron Man. He plays all the time. There's something to be said for that. He's always available, but he has not been great. I'm sorry, he hasn't been great. And the Knicks do not have a team that creates a lot off the dribble. They have one guy, and that's Brunson in the starting lineup. And one thing I've noticed when the Knicks struggle against some teams have come up with this strategy where they leave Josh Hart wide open for threes. And he doesn't take them. So he's obviously lost a lot of confidence in his three-point shooting. He just has. So it's a little distressing. I think we all had dreams and hopes. But right now, the way the Eastern Conference standings are, it looks like the Knicks are going to finish third. And the Celtics are going to finish second. So then if the Knicks get past the first round, like we expect that they will, they're going to have to play the Celtics in the second round. You know what's going to happen? For the third straight year, they're going to get eliminated in the second round. So with all the moves they made, trading 5 first-round draft picks, making the trade for Cat, which I would do over and over and over again, I have no problem with that. They're going to end up in the same place they've ended up. I don't think the Celtics are going to catch the Cavs. And really, is it any respite if the Cavs finish second and you have to face them in the second round? The Knicks' only hope is that something happens out of this world where the Celtics or the Cavs, or if it's the Celtics that finish in the 2 spot, they get knocked out in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen. Celtics are a beast. I think they're going to end up repeating. And the Knicks can't match up with them. Doesn't make them a bad team. As I said, they're very, very good. They're just not great. And the surprising thing with the Knicks is defensively, they're deficient. And that is a big, big deal for Tom Thibodeau team. They're a deficient defensive team. There are things they can't do. They can't guard the perimeter. They can't guard the pick and rolls with Karl Anthony Towns. They just can't. And they don't have a lot of guys that create off the dribble in the starting lineup other than Brunson. Brunson's going to have to carry the load. He really is. OG Anunoby, I know he just came back from the injury, so we're not seeing top-flight Anunoby yet. And I know I've been banking a lot on Mitchell Robinson coming back. I get it. I think he's going to be important for them, a rim protector, and allows Karl Anthony Towns to play the 4 rather than the 5 when they play together. I think that will improve them defensively. I think it certainly will. Will it improve them enough? No. It won't. Ironically enough, they have a lot of trouble defending a unicorn like Porzingis. They can't. He's too fast. He has too much offensive moves for Karl Anthony Towns and too much length. And Mazzulla is a really good coach. He really is. That's a great team. And do the Knicks have anybody like Jason Tatum? That's just like 30 points waiting to happen. Or Jaylen Brown. Do they have anybody like that? Jalen Brunson's the closest. So they have a really good starting 5. They have a great point guard and a really good other 4 players. You know, there was a site today that said that within 2 years, the OG Anunoby contract is going to be the 8th worst contract in the NBA. I think they overpaid for Anunoby, too, for what he brings. But bring it. They're a great team when he plays, but they have not been great since he's come back. I mean, they barely beat. Think about it. They barely beat the Bulls. Had to go into overtime. The Bulls. Then they got smacked around by Cleveland and smacked around by Boston. So now they're 0-7 against Boston, Cleveland, and OKC. The one great team that they played well against is who? Well, it's Denver, which is odd. So they could beat a lot of teams in the NBA. They could probably beat 26 teams easily. But the 3 that they're going to have to encounter if they want to win a championship, they can't beat them. And they've proven they can't beat them. Now, if they lost close games, that'd be fine. But they're outmatched. They're overmatched. Not a great thing to see. Not a great thing to see at all. I saw a lot of people, over the last 4 days since the decision was made, They certainly want my take on the Yankees rescinding their grooming policy when it comes to beards. And I'm going to be quite frank about it. I don't like that they rescinded it. I thought there was something charming and quaint about the rule, something that made the Yankees stand out, something that made them be a little bit different. And I laugh when people say, "Well, I mean, these are adult men. They should groom themselves the way they want." That's not the way the world works. Every place of business has rules. Every single place. You have to get there at a certain time. You can take lunch at a certain time. You have to dress a certain way. That's it. It's the rules of engagement. You want to work for said place, you have to adhere to said rules. Now, I was always surprised that over the years that there wasn't a player who challenged it. That said, you know what, I'm not doing it. And then if it went to court, it would be a very interesting case. Now, do I like that Hal Steinbrenner rescinded the rule? I said I don't. Do I understand why he did? Yeah, I do. And I've said this over and over and over again over the years. Over these last couple of years, Don and Peter and I would always talk about this. There's going to come a time that they're going to want a player who has long hair or a beard, who has options to go other places, and says, I'm not signing with the Yankees if I have to cut my beard. So then, at that point, they'd be backed into a corner if they really wanted that player, and they would have to say, okay, we're gonna take the rule down. And that would make the player the bad guy. So I said before that happened, you really have to seriously consider getting rid of the rule. But the amazing thing that all of these years, a 50-year rule, there has never been a player that I know of that did not take the Yankee money because they wanted to have a beard. And one of the more interesting guys that came down against the reversal of the rule was Johnny Damon, who was part of the idiot Red Sox squad that won a World Series and was known for his long hair and beard. And when he got to the Yankees, he gladly shaved the beard and cut his hair. And he said over the weekend, I think that was something special, and it was not that big of a deal. Randy Johnson had long flowing hair and a goatee. Cut it immediately. Cut the hair immediately, cut the beard immediately. Any player has done it without fighting. And there have been guys that pushed the envelope a little bit. Andy Pettitte, on the day that he started, had more than a 5 o'clock shadow. It was like an 8 o'clock shadow. But is Joe Torre or Joe Girardi going to say, hey, right before they go out to pitch, you got to shave? No, they relaxed it. Same thing with Roger Clemens. And then on the next day, they would shave. And in the last couple of years, who are we kidding? Giancarlo Stanton has a soul patch. Nobody busted his chops. They let him keep it. It wasn't unkempt. It wasn't sloppy, anything like that. But forget about what Michael Kay says. Okay? The one guy that I go to is Aaron Judge. He's the captain of the team. And he said, anybody who doesn't want to play here because they can't grow a beard is probably a player that we don't want here anyway. Now, Judge did talk with Hal Steinbrenner. Hal Steinbrenner did his due diligence. Now, one of the strange things that I heard is before the announcement was even made, Devin Williams, who was acquired from Milwaukee, he went up to see Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman and said, he would have loved to have kept the beard or whatever. I guess they took that into account. And Devin Williams was the guy that was traded here. He didn't have a choice. Now, his choice could have been, well, I'm not shaving. But he did. And then on picture day, he took a picture where he clearly had a beard. More than just stubble. And nobody went nuts. But it's beyond me. Okay, I had a beard last year because I lost a bet. It is beyond me how anybody could have such import attached to having a beard. I mean, really, what's going on? Right away, Carlos Belcher, I'm growing a beard now. Devin Williams, I'm going to grow my beard back. I mean, really, that completes you? People have beards. I get it. The Vice President of the United States has a beard. I get it. But there was something special about the Yankees being the one team where you had to shave. They let you have a mustache. And now, of all the things that are on his plate, Aaron Boone now has to be the guy who judges whether it's kempt or not kempt or unkempt. Yeah, of all the things he has to worry about each and every day, he's got to be the beard police now. So if you ask me, do I like it? My answer is no. If you ask me, do you understand why they did it? My answer is absolutely I understand why they did it. Absolutely I understand why they did it. Because the world is strange. The world is different now. And for an organization that bends over backwards to make things comfortable for their players, they have bent over backwards to make things comfortable for their players. Because these young men seem like they need a beard to complete themselves. So rather than fight it and being looked at as stodgy and old school, although it doesn't seem like it bothers Judge one bit, they relented. After much hue and cry, they relented. And somebody asked how would your dad feel about this? He said, well, if it helps us win, to get players to win, he'd be okay with it. I don't know. I remember a story when George Steinbrenner bought the team, and Lou Piniella wanted to grow a beard and have long hair. And he went up to George at the Yankee spring training facility in Fort Lauderdale at the time and said to George, why can't I grow a beard and have long hair? George said, because those are the rules. He said, I don't get the rule. He goes, Jesus Christ had long hair and a beard. And George very calmly walked Lou out beyond the left field fence where there was a little lake and said, you walk across that lake, you could grow a beard and have long hair. George had a military background. Hal has that same background. He went to Culver Academy. This is a guy who probably had to swallow real hard to rescind this rule. But times, they are a-changing. Because I will tell you this. When I first started traveling with the Yankees, so this is my 34th year as a broadcaster, starting my 34th year. When the Yankees traveled, whether it was the hottest day in August, they had a jacket and a tie. They were dressed up. Everywhere they went. And you know why? Because George Steinbrenner wanted it known that when the Yankees walked into a hotel to check in after a road trip, even if it was at 3, 4 in the morning and there was nobody there but the people attending in the hotel, he wanted them to know these are the New York Yankees. And this is the way we dress. But because of the health and science people, where everybody bends over backwards for players, they have come up with the idea it doesn't make sense to make players travel in a jacket and tie because they have to be comfortable in order for them to do their job the right way. So the Yankees now travel in sweatsuits. And this has been going on for the last couple of years. There are no jackets and ties anymore. The only people wearing jackets and ties on the planes were me and John Sterling. Me, because I have to wear that on the air, and John, because that's the way he dressed. So that's a change that happened. So is it a change for the better? Well, let's just put it this way. It's a change. I'll tell you a funny story. When the Yankees went to Japan in that series against the Rays, They had to get on the plane on it with a suit and tie on. Then, on the 18-hour flight, they were allowed to change into sweatpants, pajamas, whatever the case may be, which they all did. And then an hour before landing in Tokyo, they had to put their jackets and ties back on so that when they left the plane and went into the hotel in Japan, the first look you got of the New York Yankees was not in sweatpants. It was in a jacket and tie, preferably a suit. And that's the way the Yankees were. It's not like that anymore because, again, the players are the thing. Let's make them comfortable. Let's make them happy. Let's not rock their boat. So I think a little part of the Yankee tradition died last week when they rescinded the rule. So again, let me repeat so nobody misunderstands. I don't like the fact that it's rescinded. I liked that rule. I thought it was something special about being a Yankee. But I understand why they did it. I'm not fighting that they did it. The way they explained it, it makes sense. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me is that there are adult males out there that don't think they could do their job properly unless they have a beard. Makes no sense to me. Your priorities might be a little bit screwed up. Because in most workplaces in this world, you have a rule of some sort that you might not like. But if you want to work there, that's the rule that you have to adhere to. And again, I do not recall anybody who ever didn't go to the Yankees because they had to shave their beard. I had heard once that David Price didn't consider the Yankees because he didn't want to shave a beard. Well, you know what? The Yankees dodged the bullet there. Not that the Yankees ever pursued him hotly, but how did David Price's signing work out? Your priorities are misplaced if you have to have a beard and long hair in order to perform. I used to always sit back and root for the Yankees to acquire guys that had their identity attached to their long hair. I would love, like last week before the rule was rescinded, for them to make a deal with the Phillies and get Brandon Marsh. See how that would play. But the world, it's changing. It's different. It's not what it was. And I think some of us that are older and more set in our ways, we're going to have to be dragged over the finish line. Because I think there's something to be said about looking good. And you can look good with a beard. I'm not saying you can't. But uniformity. Imagine if the military in the United States relaxed their rules and said, yeah, long hair, that's fine. And I'm not saying that a baseball team is the military, but it's about discipline too. I thought Aaron Judge said all the right things without going crazy. And really, the money shot that he had, to me, maybe guys who refuse to shave a beard aren't guys that we really want on this team. And by the way, nobody on this team refused. Carlos Rodon is very comfortable with a beard. He shaved it. He just did. Devin Williams didn't want to. He shaved it. Nobody has said no. But the Yankees avoided the uncomfortable possibility of somebody saying no. A player they want. A player they think is going to help them win. So the rule is no more. The rule is no more. And I know that Hal listens to two of his nephews that are high up in the pecking order of the Yankee front office, and one of them may one day take over the team from Hal. Steven Swindle and George M. Steinbrenner IV. These are young guys, and maybe they don't see the wisdom in making people shave a beard. But he talks with a lot of people. Hal is a person that does not make decisions on a whim. He did his due diligence on this. And then he came to this conclusion. I'm sure there were people in his ear saying, you've got to do it, you've got to do it, you've got to do it. And one more thing. maybe some things, I don't see the import in them, but there was a segment of the Yankee populace, Yankee fan base, that went nuts when the Yankees would play Frank Sinatra, New York, New York after a loss. It became a thing that actually aggravated people. And it's more of their young fan base that it bothered. And you know what they did? They rescinded that too. No longer after a Yankee loss will Frank Sinatra's New York, New York be played. It'll be another Sinatra song, but not New York, New York. So the first time they lost a game, it was That's Life, which actually is perfect. But it's amazing to me, the things that rattle people's cages that they just can't abide by. Oh, my God, they're playing Sinatra's New York, New York after a loss. So what? What's the big deal? Do you realize that they used to play Sinatra after a win, and then Liza Minnelli singing New York, New York after a loss? And then that was actually changed because they felt it was an insult to Liza Minnelli that they would only play her after a loss, so then they just played George all the time. They just played Frank Sinatra all the time. But the fact that that became a cause celeb is beyond me. It really is. Maybe I have become the old guy shouting at clouds. But why was that such a big deal? Like, you know what? They changed it. And to me, that's not a big deal. Like, it never impacted 1 second of my life that annoyed me. And I sat in that booth after a lot of losses, and Frank Sinatra was blaring in the background. You know what? It became background noise. It never, registered in my hypothalamus that, oh, my God, this is awful. They play that after wins, and now they're also playing it after losses. So they changed that rule. And again, I go, so what? It was so what to me when they played it after losses, and it's so what to me that they changed it. The things that bother people, it's beyond me. Maybe it's not beyond you. Let me hear. 1-800-919-3776. You become the co-host when we get back right here on 880 ESPN. Hey, maybe the offseason, but every season is Bigelow tea season. You know I'm picky about what I drink, especially the days I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. Want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Ooh, got a dash light on? The AutoZone free Fix Finder service can read your check engine, ABS, and other warning lights to help you find the fix. You'll get an easy-to-read report with clear next steps. And we can recommend a trusted local shop if you need one. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. The free Fix Finder service with shop referral. Only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
As the number and severity of third-party breaches continue to rise, companies are increasingly vigilant, not just about how they handle their own data, but how their vendors do as well. For security and compliance leaders, this means more security reviews are coming across your desk every day, and valuable time is being wasted on manual security reviews. With Vanta Questionnaire Automation, security and compliance teams can complete security reviews up to 5 times faster, giving you time back to focus on running your security and compliance programs. Over 8,000 global companies like ZoomInfo, Smart Recruiters, and Noibu use Vanta to save time on security reviews. Visit vanta.com/podcast to learn more about questionnaire automation. That's VANTA.com/podcast. Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, yeah. A lot of changes. Now, all of this is like peripheral nonsense. The beard, the New York, New York. One thing that has caught my eye, though, from Yankee camp is the Giancarlo Stanton situation. So he had not swung a bat coming into spring training because of tennis elbows, both elbow. And then it was reported by, I believe it was John Heyman of the New York Post yesterday, that he had gone back to New York to get further evaluation on the situation. And then Aaron Boone said yesterday that he did go back to New York, but it's for another issue, which I am not going to get into. So today the Yankees are in Fort Myers, and Boone said there's nothing else more to say right now. Hopefully we see him soon. If he wants to address anything, he can, but there's really nothing more to answer right now. Very mysterious. I don't know what it's about. I really have no idea what it's about. So if it's not about the elbow, why come back to New York? And he was also asked by, Randy Miller of NJ.com, this is Stanton, before he left for New York, and I was told by somebody that they had the same issue and they had minor surgery on it and it was completely fixed. And Randy Miller asked him, why didn't you get the surgery during the off season and it would be over by now? And you know what Stanton said? I don't know. So the whole thing is very odd to me, just very odd. The Yankees need him. But I think that if you were putting an over-under right now, the way this looks, I think the over-under of games he's going to play has to be like 92, 93, something like that. He's certainly not starting the season on time. So this is the elbows that are the issue. This is even the lower body injury that always seems to get at least once a year. So this does not bode well. I know what people are thinking, right? Well, as long as he's okay for the playoffs, yeah, you got to get to the playoffs first. 1-800-919-3776. Time for you. Jeffrey in Scranton. Start it off, Jeff.
Michael, before I go apoplectic, on the State of the Union on the Yankee decisions, I just want to say, awesome call on Paradise. My wife and I love it. One of the best shows we've seen in a long time.
It's awesome.
Just wanted to say that.
It's so mysterious. I can't wait for tonight to watch the new episode.
Oh, all right. I'm there. So let me just gather myself here. So, I went to a school that has a great tradition, Culinary Institute of America. There's no facial hair. And I showed up to class one day, a little late in the morning. I had a little scrub. I got sent back. I had to go back to my dorm room and shave. I don't cry about it. It's the tradition. I was proud to go shave. I was at CIA. I don't know if these players understand, if the Yankees brass understands, when you no longer honor a tradition, you start to lose traditions. And then you're like everyone else. Well, the problem, the beards or the patches or the silly Star Wars music, sure, they want to bring in younger fans, of course. The tradition there is also winning. So they're trying to reinvent the wheel when the nexus and the problem is when you're not winning, you start looking around trying to figure out what's going on. They're grounded in tradition.
Well,
they're grounded in winning.
I think this was, Jeffrey, is preemptive. They did not want to have a situation where they wanted a player and the player said, we're not shaving a beard. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. Now, it's interesting, though, because nobody has yet done that. So part of this rule is you could have a beard that's neatly trimmed, but your hair has to be above the collar. All right, let's just say, for argument's sake, that the last piece to the Yankee championship puzzle was Brandon Marsh, who has stringy, greasy hair that he loves. And they make a trade with the Phillies, and Brandon Marsh says, no, I'm not cutting it. Would you then relent on that rule? So how far do you go to satisfy childish players that need their hair a certain way in order to perform. And again, don't listen to me, a 64-year-old guy. Listen to Aaron Judge, the captain of the team. If a guy needs a beard to perform, maybe that's the guy we don't want on the team. That's not me saying it. That's the captain of the New York Yankees. You know who didn't like shaving? Thurman Munson. Thurman Munson didn't like it. There's actually a baseball card in spring training where he had a beard. He would do that just to tick off George Steinbrenner. But when the rule had to be enforced at the beginning of the season, you know what? He shaved his beard. Because when you're part of something and that something has that rule, you do it gladly. Let's go to Jason in Florida City. Jason.
Hey, Michael, how are you? Long-time listener from the afternoon drive. You're doing a great job on the new show. Pleasure to listen to.
Thank you, Jason.
So I'm 36 years old. I'm a third-generation Yankee fan. So I am very steeped in tradition. I've always been for the facial policy. But I think it was time. I mean, I'm not for a full-grown beard, but definitely keeping it cropped and professional. The reason why I feel that way is because, again, being 36, I grew up in the dynasty years and in the early 2000s where, we were able to throw money at whoever we wanted, and we were the only team in baseball that could do it. So, yeah, if the Yankees are offering you tens of millions of dollars more than what another team could, you're not going to make a peep out of it. You'll shave your face. Now you have the Dodgers, the Mets, you have even Toronto throwing, contracts at Ohtani and Soto out there, and San Francisco. So I think players have options now where to get a generational contract from. So, and being part of Gen X, I'm sorry, Gen Y, my generation tend to be petulant and crybabies. So I think it's definitely also a Gen Y and Gen Z thing. But I think it's more so a fact of the money thing, where the Yankees aren't the only game in town that can give you a generational contract.
Well, you know what? That's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. But again, Johnny Damon could have gotten money other places, and he took the Yankees and shaved. And Randy Johnson took the Yankees and shaved. So, again, I don't think there's ever been a player that said, I'm not going there. Because I thought it was a problem. I thought it was going to be a problem at some point. They made a trade for somebody that would have long hair and a beard, and that person would just refuse to shave. Nobody, to my knowledge, refused to shave. No one. Let's go to Mel in Rahway. Mel.
Hey, Mike, huge fan. Great show.
Thank you, man.
When I hear this, I think about Eli being benched. When Eli got benched, it doesn't matter who he was going to get benched for. When the streak ended, everybody's going to make an uproar. This year, the first African-American just won the X Games gold medals. He have long dreads. I feel like this opened the door for everyone. It doesn't matter when they was going to do it. It was always going to be an uproar. But now is out the way. Now everyone could just be a Yankee.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if it's an uproar, Mel. I mean, I think that there's traditionalists that are upset about it, and I think there's a lot of fans that are cool with it. Over the years, we've had people call it, why don't they relax the rule? I don't understand it. So I don't think the vast majority, maybe a slight majority. I think I never was in the military, but I think there was something really, for lack of a better phrase, I think there was something sweet about it. I think there was something really cool about it. Oh, that's the New York Yankees. They're a little bit different than everybody else. They don't have their names on the back of the uniforms. They don't have alternative jerseys, although that might come at some point. And they don't have beards and they don't have long hair. I think there was something cool about it. Made it a little different. Now, it's not different. Hey, Game Time is brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it's Tully time. At 7:30 today, the Rangers are at UBS Arena to take on the Islanders. Pre-game coverage starts at 7 p.m. right here on 880 ESPN. Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, and triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew. Try the new Tullamore Dew Honey during today's action. Glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. When we come back, more of your phone calls, and also I want to talk about a friend that we've lost. Hey, we've got a big NBA game tonight. Listen up. FanDuel is giving all customers a 50% same-game parlay profit boost for tonight's matchup. The Mavs and Lakers are playing for the first time since their blockbuster trade a few weeks ago. Will Luka come out hot and show the world he's in shape? Perhaps consider an all-Luka same-game parlay to score 25 or more points, to record 6 or more assists, to record 8 or more rebounds. Mix and match with players on either team for an even bigger payout. Just visit FanDuel.com/K to get your SGP profit boost for tonight's Mavs versus Lakers game. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod at checkout.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. Meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. The secret's out. Businesses that want to grow, grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Untuckit uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/network.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, Alan Hahn, yesterday on social media, made it official. There was some text going back and forth between all of us late on Sunday night, and Alan made it official that the legendary broadcaster Al Trautwig had passed away at the age of 68, and it rocked me. It really did. I spent so much time with Al during the years that MSG had the Yankees, and I did the pre- and post-game shows with him. I've worked with a lot of really, really talented people. So by me saying what I'm about to say, in no way disparages them at all, but it only elevates the talent of Al Trautwig. I don't know if there's ever been somebody who did the work that Al Trautwig did that ever did it better than Al Trautwig. He was born to be on the air, and it seemingly was effortless. He was born with a great voice, and he just knew how to use it to make the moment important. When you heard his voice at the beginning of a Knicks game or a Ranger game or a Yankee game, you knew you were in for a big game. He could sell a big game. And again, I was beside him when he did this stuff. And to see him do it without any kind of sweat. Like, it was just so natural to him. He was born to be a broadcaster. He was so good at what he did. The teases that he wrote, the intros, the outros, the way he involved others in the shows. Just look at the lineage through the years at MSG where, young people came in and he walked us through it. Like, I was a writer. And Al Trautwig taught me the ropes, walked me through everything, gave me unbelievable advice. To this day, I use it. The thing that he told me that still resonates with me, Michael, never read anything on the air that somebody else wrote. Because if it's not right, you're going to be blamed. It's your voice attached to it. Write everything that you read. To this day, I hear him saying that to me when I do a tease on Yes. And even if somebody does lay out what they want written, I'll just go over it. So I add my word to it, to my voice to it. But Al, it's not like he had to sit there with a yellow legal pad and write those great intros. He would just have like bullet points, and then he would go and he would match the words with the incredible pictures that MSG put up, and he would hit every single mark. It's all on YouTube if you want to see. So he did that with me. He did that with John Giannone. He did that with Alan Hahn. He was an amazing talent. And for a period of like 20 years, he was the soundtrack of New York sports. Because MSG had it all back then. The Knicks, the Rangers, the Yankees. And if it was a big event, he was there. He did the Rangers parade. And people of a certain age, this is the 23rd year. This one coming, their 24th year coming up of Yes. But the championship years in 96 and 98, 99 and 2000, that was all MSG. And Al Trautwig was kind of like the soundtrack of it. The Stanley Cup with the Rangers, the soundtrack of it. The Riley years, the Van Gundy years, Ewing years, that was Al Trautwig. Go look at some of his interviews. So comfortable with a microphone in his hand. Never got flustered. Never fumpered, as we say in the business. Never was he in awe of anybody that he had to interview at Celebrity Row at Madison Square Garden. And then look at some of the Olympic work he did. And the Tour de France, where he was the voice of that, where writing was so important to it. And he was in the movie Cool Runnings with the Jamaican bobsled team. He was one of one. And, I mean, he was so, I never saw him come to work where he didn't seem, thrilled. He knew that the job that he had was the job that he was born to have. He was born to be this. There are some people that work their way up to something. Al Trautwig came into this world, and it was almost like preordained. He's going to be a broadcaster because he's so damn good at it. Howie Rose, who used to be the voice of the Islanders, whenever they would bring in a new studio host, he tweeted this out, they said, any advice, he said, just watch Al Trautwig. Unflappable, cool, amazing. He would come to work at Yankee Stadium for a day game. Whenever you saw him, he had that ever-present cup of coffee with him. He was immaculately, impeccably dressed. And he also gave me another clue about long road trips. Because, if I go on a 10-game road trip, I have 10 different suit jackets or 10 suits. And Al would go, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, all you need is a blue blazer. It doesn't resonate with people that are watching on TV. They see the blue blazer. They don't think it's the same thing you've worn because it's a blue blazer. All you need are different ties and different shirts. And those are the kind of tidbits that he would give you. And he wasn't preaching. He was being your friend. And what a life. He was the stick boy for the Islanders. He was the ball boy for the Nets when they won a championship in the NBA in the ABA. This was one of one, people, and we got to enjoy him for almost 3 decades here in New York City. He became part of the firmament of sports. You couldn't find a nicer, more helpful person who was nice to everybody, no matter their standing, whatever. Never big time anybody. And believe me, when Al was at the height, he was making big time bucks. And he never big time anybody. He talked to the people in the food room the same way as he would talk to an executive from MSG, or he would talk to George Steinbrenner, because he was real. And so many people on TV now, they're not real. He was real. What you saw on the air, that was Al Trautwig. That's how he was at the post-game bar scene in the hotel. He just held court. He was a great conversationalist. And when you're a great conversationalist in real life, to make it seem so effortless to do it on TV with a microphone in front of you, that was the same guy that he was off the air. That's not easy to do. Sometimes people go into announcer mode, an announcer voice. Not Al. Al was born with that voice. That was a voice that you heard when you saw him in the morning coming in from the parking lot at Yankee Stadium. That was a voice you heard on the air. So sad, taken far, far too soon at the age of 68. May his memory be a blessing to his son Alex, who's a photographer, and his wife Kathy. The best of the best. We lost one of one. And frankly, my heart breaks just a little bit because he meant a lot to me. And he meant a lot to my career as well. And when he was the face of the MSG network, that was a gold standard. That network was the gold standard. And the gold standard network, they hired Al Trautwig to be their front-facing guy. That tells you all you need to know about Al Trautwig. Special on the air, special off the air, and he will be missed. We'll be back.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Zysol is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Zysol keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Zysol. At night.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
All right, so we are inching closer to the combines and what's going to happen with the Giants and the Jets. And both Joe Shane and Aaron Glenn spoke today. Giant GM has to decide who he's going to pick at 3 or whether or not he's going to try to move up and try and get one of the quarterbacks. Mel Kiper had his mock draft, his first mock draft. He doesn't have the Giants taking a quarterback, although at 3, he does have Shedeur Sanders available, and Sanders is going to be dropped down, according to Mel, to number 7, where he'll be selected by the Jets. So Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner, according to Mel, is the one that the Giants will select. Well, Joe Shane was asked about that pick, and here's what he said.
No, we're open to everything. Move up, move back. Again, it's an exciting time for a year. We're starting to put that together now, put the puzzle together. So, we're going to look at all options to, improve the roster going into 2025.
Now, he said they would like a veteran quarterback on the roster for sure.
Tommy DeVito is our only quarterback on the roster, so you may evaluate both of those. Those both may be options. So, again, we don't know what's going to happen in the draft. We don't know who's going to be there. When we get around these kids, they may or may not be a fit for us. So, we're going to have to address the position somewhere. And even if you get a young quarterback, you'd like to have a vet, in the room with them to show them the ropes and how to be a pro. So, we're looking at all different avenues. It's, hey, is this guy going to be really good for a young quarterback, or is this guy a starter? Or can we get a guy in the draft? Or if we do, should we have a guy that's more of a guy that can develop and show a guy how to be a pro? So, we're going to look at, vets. We're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at trade candidates. We're going to look at under every rock to, find the best prospect for us going into the 25 season.
Now, he was also asked, well, what's your approach to finding a quarterback?
I'm for taking swings at that position. It's the most important position, and it's hard to find them. So keep swinging at the position until you find one. And again, I look back at like John Schneider. He's traded a third-round pick for Charlie Whitehurst, didn't work out. Matt Flynn, paid him $10 million, got Russell Wilson in the third. Just keep swinging at the position. And, again, I believe in our process and the people in the building from a scouting standpoint, the coaching standpoint. So, we'll keep swinging, and, we're going to try to find one.
And finally, is there more pressure for he and his coach, Brian Dable, in year 4?
Yeah, there's always pressure in this industry, and I understand it. I get it. Pressure to win, and again, after that first year when we won, we went with Daniel and the way we structured the contract, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. So we all knew that, like the way we structured it. Hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go with this for 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, then we're going to need to pivot and find somebody else. And unfortunately, it didn't, and that's why we're here. So that was all discussed before that happened, and again, I wish it would have ended a little bit differently, but this is where we are. So now we got to address the position.
All right, so obviously over the weekend, the Rams gave Matthew Stafford's agent the right to talk with teams to see if they would give him what he wants contractually, which is being reported at $50 million a year. Now you might roll your eyes, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that do make over $50 million a year. And Stafford has won a Super Bowl. So although I think there's 10 quarterbacks that make over $50 million, only one of them has won a Super Bowl. So Stafford said, okay, I know I'm 37, but this is what I want. Doesn't look like the Rams want to give it to him. So there are reports that he has spoken, his agent has spoken with the Giants. Would they give $50 million? Are they in cap capability that they can do that? Would it be worth it? Now, one thing would be a non-starter for me. I can't give him the number 3 pick. I just can't. Not for a 37-year-old quarterback. Now, we could talk about the number 2, which is also quite a good pick because it's early in the second round. It's like almost a really late first rounder. I prefer not even to give that. But there are teams out there that might. And the funny thing is, if the Rams do end up trading Stafford, they're going to end up, you watch, Aaron Rodgers is going to land like into a cotton ball pit. He goes from the Jets, he's going to go to a team with an unbelievable offensive mind in Sean McVay and other parts of a team that are ready to win. I mean, they came the closest during the playoffs to beating the Eagles. In the snow, they were driving to win that game. But it didn't work out. What a great situation that would be for Rodgers. That would be the situation that Brady fell into in Tampa Bay. Be interesting to see if that's the Rams' pivot. But it doesn't look like they want to give Stafford $50 million. He's still under contract to them, so anybody who wants to give him $50 million has to give the Rams something. Now let's move to the Jets. They also need a quarterback. Would they be in on Stafford? Aaron Glenn, the Jets head coach, was asked, what are you looking for in a quarterback?
We're looking for winners. We're looking for winners.
Are you confident that you can find a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers for 2020?
We're confident we're trying to win games. So that may be, it is what it is. So, and that's it. And the thing is, I don't want to disrespect any of the players we have on our team. And it kind of pisses me off and some of the other players that's what we all talk about. You have Quentin Williams, you have Quincy Williams, you have AVT. Now you have Joe Tippmann. All those guys need to be respected as far as winning games also.
And Glenn said, he's not talking about rebuilding. We're here to win now.
Listen, Mooj has talked about the Aaron Rodgers deal. I don't think there needs to be anything else said about that, especially with some of the players we have on the roster also. I don't think anything has to be said about that. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the forward thinking of this group and what we're going to do as a team. So we're here to win now, and we're looking forward to it.
So Glenn was asked, what was the message that you gave to the players about moving on from Rodgers?
Yes, I have talked to them. And listen, I understand the reaction of the players, but I will say this. Every decision that me and Mooch make is to win and to win now. So I understand it, but again, listen, this is not going to be the last decision I make, right? That's going to upset some people, and that's okay, right? But as men, we talk about it. We make sure we keep it in-house, that we're going to continue to do.
That speaks volumes, though, because they want to win now, and they make decisions that's best for them to win now, and they didn't think that Aaron Rodgers gives them the best chance to win now. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I see who they bring in. Are they going to bring in somebody that's going to be a better fit for them than Aaron Rodgers? We'll see. That's the key. You can't criticize the Jets now until you see what their pivot is from Aaron Rodgers. That's the key. Now, Darren Muji, the new GM, he said, although it was reported that, Aaron Rodgers is giving ultimatums, you can't, if you come back, you have to be at every single preseason workout. You can't be on Pat McAfee. And Darren Muji said Aaron Rodgers has never given an ultimatum.
I just want to address the Aaron Rodgers stuff, get ahead of that. I'm not going to discuss any private discussions that I had with Aaron throughout this process, and really with any private discussion I had with any player for that matter. I'm not here to confirm or deny any rumors that happened during that process. I will say this: there was never an ultimatum or rules of engagement for Aaron to potentially join the Jets again. That never happened. AG and I had a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversations, a lot of good thoughts, and just felt at the end of the day it was the best thing for the Jets moving forward, just going a different direction at the quarterback positions.
Will we ever know the true story? Rodgers has a hard time editing himself, so maybe he'll blurt it out somewhere, sometime. But I think they're being very, circumspect about this. So we don't exactly know what was said with Rodgers. If Rodgers said, I'm not going to do this, and, Muji just said there was no ultimatum, but something happened because he's not coming back, right? 1-800-919-3776. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Brian in New Jersey. Brian.
Hi, Michael. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I wanted to talk to you about the ABS challenge system in baseball.
Sure.
I personally don't like it, but like the facial hair policy, I understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do. You broadcasted a game with it. What do you think?
I like it. I don't see the downside, Brian, because you're trying to get things right, and it doesn't take a lot of time. And I think it adds an element of strategy to it. So that means there's an element of fun. Who's going to make the challenge? Is going to be the catcher, the hitter, the pitcher? Most people are saying the pitcher should not do that. I talked to John Smoltz over the weekend. I was the MC for the Connecticut Cancer Foundation dinner at the Mohegan Sun, and he said a pitcher should not challenge. He said, not because we don't know the strike zone. He said, but when a pitcher delivers the pitch, his head is always moving. His head is not directed right at home plate. You want it to be. He said the only pitcher that he ever saw whose head never moved away from looking at home plate was Greg Maddux. He said Greg Maddux could have challenged. He said, but my head moved when I delivered the ball. Glavin's head moved. He said all pitchers' head moved. So they're not in the best position to challenge it. So that leaves it to the catcher and the hitter. So when do you use the challenge? Do you waste it early? Do you save it? I was talking to Wade Boggs, and Wade Boggs said, I would only use it in pitches that impact how the hitter actually hits. Like the first pitch, because there's a difference. A hitter hits much higher when he's up 1-0 on the count or 0-1. He said those are the swing pitches that if you think it's outside and it's called a strike, then you do challenge. He said there are other pitches, just let it go. Like if a 2-1 pitch is called a strike, he said, do you really, 3-1 makes you a much better hitter, but do you really want to do it then, or do you want to save it for maybe if you're punched out on 2-2? So I like that aspect of it. I don't think it's slowing the game down, and I think it adds a little bit of drama and also levity. And levity, by this I mean players are, I always say, players are usually the worst GMs because they see things differently. They don't see things clearly. They see things with emotion. And players are the worst ones that, I mean, how many players have you seen pop up at second base after they're called out and they point to the dugout, challenge that call? And then we look at the replay and they were out. So I think there's emotion involved, and the fact that the bench can't get involved, they can't look at a replay. It's got to be in real time. I like it. I'm surprised that anybody doesn't like it. Surprised that anybody doesn't like it. 1-800-919-3776. Henry in South Carolina. Henry.
Michael, John Smoltz has a point. So I trust his judgment on that.
Yeah, me too.
I have big time. So I've been awash in takes on the Beard story all weekend. I have so many things to say, but until you guys give me a real audition as a full-time co-host, I'll whittle it down to this. Coming from a macro perspective, George Steinbrenner's ownership lasted 37 years, suspension notwithstanding, right? The Yankees went to 11 championships and they won 7 with a leader or a leadership that would do anything to win. And my experience has taught me that continuing to do something or be something just because it's safe, warm, familiar is not always, or just because it's what you've always done, is not always a way forward. If they are willing to make a change like this, it shows me that they aren't passing up any options that can move the organization from where it is now to a new place.
Oh, that's well said. I think it took more courage for Hal to rescind the rule than it would have taken for him to continue it. Because you could always fall back on, well, that's what my father wanted. It was important to him. But he went up against his father's wishes, and he in essence has modernized the way the Yankees do business. So I'll repeat what I said in the first hour if you just joined us. I don't like the rescinding of the rule. I thought there was something charming and really cool about the fact that the Yankees were clean-shaven. But I understand why he did it. I don't begrudge him that right to do it. Obviously, he's the owner of the team. He could do whatever the heck he wants. But I thought it was something cool about, you come to the Yankees, you have to shave your beard. That was part of the whole indoctrination. And to see guys that, played with various beards and long hair come in and adhere to the rules, I thought it was great. And that's why I really appreciated the courage of what Aaron Judge said. If somebody needs to have a beard and refuses to shave a beard to play for the Yankees, maybe those are guys that we don't want. Because it does come down to discipline. It really does. Are you disciplined? Will you do what the organization tells you to do? And for about 50 years, every player that has put on those pinstripes has adhered to that rule. And rather than risk it where somebody's going to say no, and then you're going to be painted into a corner, the Yankees are proactive. And I hope that people don't blame Devin Williams. Because Devin Williams made it clear to them he was not happy about shaving his beard, but he did. He did. So for those that don't like the rescinding of the rule, I don't think you pin it on Devin Williams. This is something that they have talked about for a long, long time. I don't think that Devin Williams is the one that really pushed the needle. Let's go to Chris in L.A. Chris.
Hey, Michael. How you doing today?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. Rest in peace to Al Trautwig. I put him, you, and Sam Rosen. A lot of my childhood was based on listening to you guys on MSG. So, it was a sad day when I heard that, and listening to Alan's story yesterday was really hard.
Yeah, it's a tough loss. He was really superb at what he did, and he also was a great guy.
Yeah, and my mother, God rest her soul, she actually was a huge Yankee fan. And so growing up watching the Yankees, I grew up and I went to Catholic school, and she would tell me all the time, look at Derek Jeter, look at Pat Kelly, look at the guys. Like, do you see them with any, peach fuzz or any beard? So once my mom saw that I was getting that peach fuzz, she told me to shave and always want me to have a clean haircut. So now, being a father of a 10-year-old, it's kind of weird to sort of sit there and be like, well, I mean, now these guys are going to have, full-on beards, and not being able to sort of tell them, oh, hey, when I was a kid, they never used to, have beards.
Right.
So that's kind of a tough one. I grew up watching, the Yankees with my mom, and that kind of, that hurts a little bit, that whole, not being able to kind of share that with my kids moving forward. But one of the things I actually wanted to ask you was there was a video online with kind of a little bit of a change by Spencer Jones on his batting stance. I think it was a little bit more, sort of a little bit more bent over. I was wondering, do you think that he might get some time possibly with Giancarlo Stanton out this year?
No. I don't think they think he's ready. I mean, if you look at his numbers from last year, there was so much swing and miss. I mean, he's got power. He's an extraordinary athlete. He runs so well for a guy his size. He's a really great defender. But you can't strike out more than 50% of the time. It's just too much. So I think that he has changed his stance, as you so astutely noted, and he's trying to get the bat to the ball more and make more contact. That's going to be the next progression. He's not ready for the big leagues right now. I mean, if you want to know somebody that might get a chance with Stanton out, Dominic Smith, who they signed to a minor league deal, just hit a 2-run home run in Fort Myers. The Yankees are playing the Twins, and they lead 4-2 last I looked. Dominic Smith might get a run. Dominic Smith might be a guy who gets a look, but Spencer Jones, I don't think is I just don't think he's ready to be in the big leagues at this point. Let's go to Ira in Staten Island. Ira.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
So, all good. So, listen, time will tell, but I tell you, the quick half hour that Glenn and Muji both spoke, the sheriffs are back in town, and it reminded me so much the way Glenn responded. It was so Parcells-like. Now, will it work or not? Who knows? But to me, it's a fresher breath there. And you could see this is going to be a no-nonsense type of camp, team run. And I can't wait. 2 weeks from today is free agency. I can't wait to see how they address the quarterback situation.
No, I mean, that's going to be the key, Ira, as you know. Obviously, they've got to have a quarterback, and I don't think it's Tyrod Taylor, especially if they want to win now. Tyrod Taylor has made a great living as a backup quarterback. He's got some starting shots. He actually did well with the Buffalo Bills, but he's a backup quarterback now. If you want to win now, you need to bring in a legitimate quarterback. And again, if you didn't hear the first hour, Mel Kiper Jr. has his first mock draft, and he actually has Shedeur Sanders falling to the Jets with the number 7 pick, which is surprising in itself, and also surprising, okay, that's who the Jets want. But again, that's just Mel, reading the tea leaves. We'll see. I mean, Sanders, I don't thinks he's going to drop to 7. I mean, is he really going to drop past the Raiders? Is he going to drop out of the top 3? A lot of people say they like Ward better than they like Sanders. So Ward is projected to go in the top 2, and the Giants are projected, according to Mel, to take Travis Hunter with the 3rd pick. But even if they bring in Shedeur Sanders, that's not the quarterback. I think that's going to have them in a win-now approach. I mean, he's going to have some growing pains, right? Has to. Hey, Pantera is coming to Northwell at Jones Beach Theater on July 26th and PNC Bank Arts Center on July 31st. ESPN New York has your chance to score tickets to the venue of your choice on the ESPN New York app. Just scroll down the contest, submit your entry. It's brought to you by Live Nation. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. A lot more stuff to talk about. We'll hit all of it with you. You're the co-host, 1-800-919-3776. Some injuries that are a concern with the New York Mets. We'll talk about that right here on the Michael Kay Show, 880 ESPN.
It's a fresher breath there.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. The secret's out. Businesses that want to grow, grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Untuckit uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/network.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show, everybody, at 3 o'clock. It's Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. They've got a great show planned, so please keep it right here on 880 ESPN. So Tom Thibodeau was talking today, and Mitchell Robinson had a good practice, and they'll see if he's ready to play, how he responds the next day. A lot of physicality today. But something that he said that got my attention, there's a quote from Thibodeau on Mitchell Robinson. Quote, "We've gone 50-something games without our starting center. Guys have done a really good job stepping in. Could we do better? I always believe we can do better." Starting center. Now, first of all, I don't think he's going to be able to start because I don't think he's going to be able to give you that much time. I mean, if they got like 17 to 20 minutes out of him, I think they'd be thrilled. But if he's calling him a starting center, well, that means that Cat moves to the 4, and you choose who's leaving the starting rotation. Is it Hart? Is it Anunoby? Is it Mikal Bridges? Who loses their job if Mitchell Robinson is indeed the starting center? Just saying, something to consider. The Mets, pitching problems up top. You know, my one concern with the Mets coming into this year was I thought the lack of depth, of quality depth in their starting rotation. So Montas goes down, probably not going to be back till June. And now Manaea goes down with an oblique injury. So he's not going to start the season with them. And, you know, if they're fortunate, maybe by the end of April, maybe. But these obliques are, you know, they're a beast, especially when you consider the torque created when you deliver a pitch with force. Now, all of a sudden, Clay Holmes is your number 3 or 2 starter, and you have a lot invested in Senga. And I'm not saying money. I mean, what's that mean? Senga has to be right because he's your number 1 starter. So do the Mets actually think about making a deal? Or do they think they could ride it out with a McGill, with a Peterson? Is Sproat ready? I doubt it. He's still, I mean, he's a really highly thought of prospect. I don't think he's ready to start the season. But their starting pitching was questionable. Now, 2 of the arms that they had slated in, they're not going to start the season with them. Again, it doesn't mean the world is ending. Met fans shouldn't think like that. But it certainly makes things tougher. Because the part of your team that was a question mark now becomes more of a question mark because 2 of the arms that you're depending on are not going to be there on opening day. And opening day means nothing. Even if you miss April, it means nothing. Montas missing 2 months, that means something. Are we going to see more of McGill? We'll see. They've got to piece it together. Or do they make a deal? Do they call the Yankees about Stroman? Do they call the Padres about Cease? We'll see. But it is something to keep an eye on. That's not a great thing to lose a player like that or lose two players like that. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Lang in Connecticut. Lang, talk to me.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Michael. Just real quick, it feels weird not acknowledging condolences to everyone about Al Trautwig growing up in the early 2000s as a teenager and hearing his therapeutic, soothing voice during some of those darkest Knicks days and those underperforming teams. That was always nice to hear him on the post-game report.
Very well said.
Thank you. To your question, I was going to call and just kind of remark how I'm feeling a bit down as a lifelong Knicks fan, because what's the point of revolving my personal life around Knicks games and watching every single one and every single second if when it comes down to it, they're looking at a, at best, second-round playoff exit, given the fact that they can't get through the Celtics or Cavs. Now, with that being said, you posed the question just before about who should have their minutes reduced. If, with certain matchups, especially the Cavs, given they have Mobley and Jared Allen.
Jared Allen, yep.
Two bigs, yep. Jared Jack, that Georgia Tech. Anyway, I think it should be Anunoby, just because he's susceptible to injury, and having him come off the bench, I think, will hopefully lead to more longevity. With all that said, I just don't know how having Mitch Robinson is going to help our three-point defense. And I just am a bit dejected at this point, given the fact that there were some high aspirations going into this season.
There's a lot of stuff you're laying out there, Lang. Dejected. Did you follow the Knicks before Leon Rose and Thibodeau got here? They're a really good team. They fight every single night. They have one of the top records in all of the NBA. And you don't know what's going to happen. From what we've seen, it looks like they would be eliminated by the Celtics in the second round. Well, let's say the Celtics stub their toe and lose in the first round. It's happened before. Teams have lost in the first round before when no one thought they would. And I would not sit down Anunoby. There would be one or two guys that would, if Mitchell is actually starting, it would be Josh Hart, who was signed here to be an off-the-bench guy, or it would be Mikal Bridges, who isn't so much used to being an off-the-bench guy. Be one of those two guys, but not Anunoby. I don't think that sitting Anunoby and playing him 30 minutes a game rather than 32 minutes a game is going to keep him from getting injured. You can't think like that. No, Anunoby is too good of a defender and too good of a three-point shooter from the corners that you're going to turn him away. Josh Hart is not a three-point threat. In this league, everybody has to be a three-point threat. And I think that part of the strategy that teams have had against the Knicks lately is they let him open it at three-point, and then they sag down and they can't get anything underneath. They cover twos. He's got to get confidence in that shot back and take it. He just has to. Let's go to Richard in Manhattan. Richard, what do you got, buddy?
Michael, Al Trautwig. You know who he reminded me of?
Who?
He was a New York version of Kurt Gowdy. They looked older. They talked in a really professional way, but yet they knew how to kid around and a smile. Trautwig, he had the advantage because even when he was younger, he looked older, so very authoritative. And I think that's important in broadcasting. He was smooth, and you always had a big game feel when he was broadcasting or, the pregame show, whatever. He was just, my best memory of Trautwig was when they first allowed, I think it was early 90s when Pat Riley was coaching, and they allowed the reporters right after the game to interview, and Riley would just have to stand there in the locker room and answer questions. It was after a loss. And I remember Trautwig, and you could see that Riley didn't want to answer any questions from any reporters after a loss. This was a hardline guy. And Trautwig was just so elegant and so dedicated, the way he was. Everything he did was so professional. Yet, he had humility to him. You could see he wasn't like an iceberg. He wasn't cold-blooded. He was really smooth, really good. I wondered what happened to him, but he'll be missed. He was fantastic. Like I said, Kurt Gowdy. He was Kurt Gowdy on a New York stage. That's how I would.
Well, and you know what, Richard? He also had a national stage where he excelled. He did countless Olympics, and he did the Tour de France. And, Richard brings up a good point. He had an incredible sense of humor. I mean, he knew it was sports. It wasn't like the world. It wasn't politics. It was sports. And I remember one time he kind of angered the Yankees about this. It was in Minnesota where Mel Hall had hit a home run and took forever to go around the bases. I think it was like 35, 36 seconds to round the bases. And Al, the next day, during batting practice, timed his jog around the bases at 36 seconds to show you how ridiculously slow it was. And the Yankees were not pleased. It was during BP, too. Looked like guys were taking aim at him. One time in Kansas City, it was like 105 degrees, and he just went to a store before we got to the ballpark and bought an egg, and he fried the egg on the AstroTurf of Kauffman Stadium. He was great. Big moment, played it big. Fun moment, he played it fun. Light moment, he played it light. He had the right touch for every moment that was. I mean, again, we're not just talking about him because he's gone, but he should have been talking about it a long time. He was the gold standard. He had a way with words that not many people have. Not many people have. He was great. Again, I don't know if there's anybody in this country that has ever done the job he does or did on a local level that ever did it better. That's how good he was. That's how great he was. Let's go to Raul in Harrisburg. Raul.
Michael, how you doing today? Another week.
Good. What's going on, baby?
Hey, a lot of things going on wrong in Yankee land. Nah, Michael, I want to say a few things about the shaving topic. I used to work in a bank, and there were standards, and I remember the boss used to tell me, you're only allowed to have a mustache. You're only allowed to be, good, clean, tuxedo. Everybody was, they had to follow the dress policy. And it reminds me of the Yankees of how they are, you know what I mean? Like, they always kept it to class, it's always what separated them from teams. You know what I mean? But I want to point out another thing, too. CC Sabathia was brought up in 2009. Brian Cashman talked about him. He said he was hesitant. So my question to you is, how do you compare that to this guy? He used to play for the Rays. You just mentioned it earlier.
Johnny Damon?
No. He was
David Price.
David
Price.
Yeah, David Price. Yeah, so what's the difference? What's the difference between them two? Because the Yankees didn't want this guy, but obviously they signed CeCe to a long-term contract. He also won with the Yankees. Was he hesitant to come to the Yankees because of the beer?
No. CeCe was hesitant about coming to the Yankees because he thought it was much too corporate. And it didn't look like they had fun. And then Brian Cashman appealed to. That's why we want you to correct this room. We want you to go in there and be CC Sabathia, so that you can loosen guys up. CC never had a problem with a beard or anything like that. Never, ever, ever. I never heard. I mean, I think he might have been reluctant to come to New York. He's from the West Coast. People said that he wouldn't come here, but Brian Cashman convinced him to come here. And I think CC had an unbelievable experience, won a championship, ended up going to the Hall of Fame, and still to this day lives in the area with his entire family. He never moved back to the West Coast. So he loved it so much, but it wasn't about, a beard or anything. It was just about what he felt was a very corporate state atmosphere. Would he be able to be himself? And Brian said, that's why we want you, is that we want you to be yourself. Let's go to John in Chatham. John.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, John.
Talk about the Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks and Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges could turn out to be one of the worst trades in New York sports. And that's saying a mouthful since Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver with the Mets. How many number one picks? 5?
5.
If 2 of those picks become good players and one possibly a star, with Mikal Bridges scoring 14 points a game with the Knicks and being pushed around by the better forwards in the league, I mean, that was a horrible trade. And also, he's soft. He's the new soft player, biggest soft player since Aaron Hicks of the Yankees or whatever.
Well, I don't know.
Michael,
a guy that plays every single day. How could you say he's soft?
He doesn't get hurt. Yeah, he's blessed that way. But Michael, I would have traded him at the deadline. I was hoping I know the Timberwolves aren't happy with Julius Randle, but that's what we need. We need a tough Julius Randle back with the Knicks. He was a scorer. He was like an enforcer.
John, you could have a problem with the 5 first-round draft picks. I can entertain that. That's a lot to give up for a third option. You can have a problem with that. But not having Julius Randle is not the issue. The biggest issue for the Knicks is not having Isaiah Hartenstein. That's it. Not Julius Randle. You'd much rather have Cat than Julius Randle. Forget about the toughness. You know what, toughness? Hartenstein had toughness. That was the biggest loss for the Knicks. And they wanted to keep him, but because of the collective bargaining agreement, their hands were tied. They can only offer him so much, and OKC blew him out of the water. He had no choice but to take that money. That was generational money for him. A guy who was a grinder, who never really got the big bucks, and now is getting over $90 million for 3 years. Please don't tell me Julius Randle is the Knicks aren't struggling, by the way. Knicks have a great record. They're struggling against the top 3 teams in the NBA, like everybody else is. Look at the Cavaliers' record. They embarrass everybody. The Celtics are the defending champions. OKC beats everybody, although they had a really unbelievable loss yesterday to Minnesota. They had a huge lead. Minnesota came back to win. But, I mean, the Knicks losing to those teams, it's no shame. They should be closer, but it tells you their limitations. They're not a bad team. But when you say the worst trade ever, I mean, the 5 first-round draft picks, those first-round draft picks, those are kids in high school right now. So they thought that, that was their move to make. You know what? They might be right. I think at this point it looks like they're wrong. I think those 5 first-round draft picks probably could have been used for something a little bit more emphatic. Mikal Bridges, to me, is not the emphatic player that I thought they'd get after moving 5 first-round draft picks. Now, speaking of basketball, how about tonight on TNT at 10? Mavericks-Lakers. I cannot wait for that. Luka against his old team. That should be fun. So, again, that's a 10 o'clock start on TNT. 1-800-919-3776. We'll finish up with your phone calls. I also have concert etiquette to ask you about. Yeah, you're intrigued, aren't you? We'll come back. We'll talk about it and lead you right into Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg at 3, right here on 880 ESPN.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod at checkout.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Yeah, happy to be here. Can I get some rotors?
Would you like brake pads with that?
How much are the brake pads?
Free with the rotors.
Free. Really?
Really, free.
Okay, I also need some oil.
Would you like an oil filter with that?
Yeah, how much is that?
Free with 5 quarts of oil.
Free? Really?
Really, free. It's part of the A to Z savings event.
You might as well call it A to free.
At AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Also want to offer condolences to the Kakuza family. Lou Kakuza Sr. Passed away this weekend. Longtime visiting clubhouse guy at Yankee Stadium. His clubhouse was state-of-the-art. It was the gold standard around Major League Baseball. And his sons now run both clubhouses for the Yankees. Rob is the home clubhouse manager, and Lou Jr. is the visiting clubhouse manager. So condolences to Rob, Lou, and their entire family as they lost the patriarch, who has a plaque at Yankee Stadium for his long and meritorious service there. So he will be missed. All right, so I've got some concert etiquette to ask about. So Jody and I went to the Billy Joel concert at Mohegan Sun on Saturday. We were there on Friday. I hosted the Connecticut Cancer Foundation dinner, did a Q&A with Tino Martinez, Wade Boggs, John Smoltz, and Brett Saberhagen. It was fun, raised a lot of money for a great, great cause. So then we stayed around to go to the Billy Joel concert. Now, I understand that when you go to a concert, people are going to stand up. And unless you have the front row, you're going to be victim to people standing up. Now, I'm taller, so even when I'm sitting, sometimes I could see through people standing up. And I do understand that there are certain jams that people are going to stand up to. So, for the first 5 songs of the concert, people are standing up. They're excited, as they should be. It's a concert. You have to expect that people are going to stand up. Then people settle in, and they sit back and they enjoy the concert. And for certain songs that they can really get into, they'll get up and, they'll stand and they'll sway. But there were 2 women, they must have been in their 30s or 40s, who were standing in front of us, sitting in front of us, but not often, that they wouldn't sit. They sat maybe twice in the 2-hour and 15-minute concert. And again, that's fine. You go to a concert, you have to realize the rules of engagement. But the thing that got me, everybody is sitting, even the people with the floor seats, they're all sitting as Billy Joel is singing Allentown. And they're up dancing to Allentown. Now, Allentown, out in Bethlehem, they're killing time. The song is about the decline of the steel industry in Pennsylvania in the 1980s. And this is what you're rocking to? I never, ever would tell a person in a concert to sit down. Not my place. You know what? You go to a concert, you expect people to stand up. But you also have to expect they'll stand up for songs that are stand-upable. Allentown? Thank goodness he didn't play like Goodnight Saigon. I mean, they would have been like rocking and rolling. I mean, there are certain things that you just don't stand up and dance to. Allentown might be one of those jams. Just saying. So I had a conversation with Wade Boggs. And to me, this is almost something that you could see covered in Seinfeld when they had the whole George Steinbrenner story arc. So George was suspended back when Wade Boggs was a free agent. And the Yankees pursued Wade Boggs. So Wade lives down in Tampa during the offseason, and he met at the hotel that George Steinbrenner owned, the Bay Harbor Inn. He met with Joe Malloy, who was George's son-in-law at the time, and Joe Malloy laid out an offer that the Yankees were going to give Wade Boggs. And throughout this whole time where Malloy is laying it out and Boggs is going back and forth with, what he would want, there's a guy sitting at the next table with a newspaper in front of his face. Never moved. Never moved. So finally, Joe Malloy makes the final offer, which is 3 years, $11 million for Boggs. Remember, Boggs was coming off his worst season ever. Probably his worst season that he ever had in the major leagues. I think he had 259 his last year with the Red Sox. And so Boggs excuses himself to Joe Malloy, and that guy's still sitting at the next table with the paper up over his face, as if he's reading the broadsheet newspaper. And he said, I got to go call my wife. So he calls his wife. He said, I think we're going to be a Yankee. Is this cool? And she said, yeah. He said, 3 years, $11 million. She said, yeah. Let's do it. So he comes back to the table, and he tells Joe Malloy, okay, you got me. I can't wait. I'm going to be a Yankee for the next 3 years. And all of a sudden, the guy at the next table drops the newspaper, and it's George Steinbrenner, and he winks at Boggs and then gets up and walks away. So he was suspended there. He was not supposed to have any interaction at all. And so technically he didn't have interaction, but he was well aware of what was going on. And then he winked at Boggs, gave him a thumbs up, and left. And Boggs said, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Although he was not there, he was really there. And that is a George Steinbrenner story that I'm sure you could tell your friends. I think you should tell your friends to stay tuned because coming up is Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg from 3 to 7. They have a great show. You should listen to it every single day. I'll be back again tomorrow, Wednesday. Remember, that's Mike Lupica at 2:30. We'll have other guests as well. And the most important thing is you'll be the co-host once again. In the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. See everybody. Have a great day. Don, Hahn, Rosenberg next on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.